Today, we're cracking open the Social Scientist's Toolkit. We're going to look at exactly how researchers go from asking these huge questions about society to actually finding some concrete, data-driven answers.
I mean, really stop and think about that for a second. It's one thing to know what your friends think about something, right? But how in the world do you get a real, clear picture of an entire country? It's a massive challenge, and you can't just guess. You need some very specific tools. So let's dive in.
All right, first up is the one you've probably all seen or even taken part in, the questionnaire. This is basically the workhorse of social research. It's the go-to method for gathering information from a whole lot of people, and fast.
So what is it really? At its heart, a questionnaire is just a list of written questions. Simple as that. Now, it might show up in your mailbox or as a link you click on a website, or it could even be a structured interview, where a researcher literally reads the exact same questions to every single person to keep things consistent.
Now, this is where it gets interesting. There are two main ways you can ask a question. On the left, you've got your closed-ended questions. Think multiple choice, or a simple yes, no, don't know. These are fantastic because they give you clean, easy-to-count numbers. That's your quantitative data. But then on the right, you have open-ended questions. These are the ones that give you a blank box to type in, letting people answer in their own words. That gives you much richer, more nuanced opinion.
And you can see why questionnaires are so popular. For one, they are super fast and efficient for reaching huge groups of people. And because everyone is answering the exact same questions, the data is highly reliable. You could run the same study again and get similar results. Oh, and here's a big one. When they're anonymous, people are often way more honest about sensitive topics, which means you get more truthful answers.
But, and this is a big but, there are some major pitfalls. A low response rate can be a total disaster. If only a certain type of person answers your survey, your results are going to be skewed. I mean, just look at the 1936 Literary Digest poll. It predicted a landslide for Alf Landon over FDR in the presidential election, but they only polled their readers, who were generally wealthier, and they got it spectacularly wrong. Then you've got the danger of leading questions, and if a researcher is right there in the room, you can get what's called the interview effect, where people give the answers they think the researcher wants to hear.
Okay, so questionnaires tell us what is happening. But what if you want to know why it's happening? For that, you need a completely different tool. You need an experiment. This method is all about digging for cause and effect.
So, an experiment is basically a highly controlled procedure. The whole idea is to test the relationship between different variables. You want to change just one thing, we call that the independent variable, and see if it causes a change in something else, the dependent variable. It's all about control.
And to really get experiments, you have to understand this crucial difference: correlation versus causation. Correlation just means two things are happening around the same time. You've probably heard the classic example: ice cream sales and shark attacks are correlated. They both go up in the summer, but obviously, ice cream doesn't cause shark attacks. The sun does. Experiments are designed to cut through that noise and find true causation.
So here's the playbook. You start with a hypothesis, a guess like higher teacher expectations lead to better student performance. Then you create two identical groups, an experimental group and a control group. For the experimental group, you change that one thing. You tell the teachers, hey, these specific kids are late developers with high potential. You do nothing to the control group. Then you measure the outcome. If the special students improved and the others didn't, you've likely found a causal link.
But experiments have this one huge vulnerability. It's called the Hawthorne effect. It was discovered during a study at the Hawthorne factory in Chicago way back. Researchers were changing the lighting to see if it affected worker productivity, but here's the crazy part. Productivity went up whether the lights got brighter or dimmer. Why? It turns out it was because the workers knew they were being watched. Think about that for a second. The simple act of being watched can change everything. That's a profound insight, not just for research, but about human nature itself. And it's a massive challenge for any scientist trying to study people as they really are. So that problem, people changing their behavior just because they know you're studying them, is a huge hurdle. So what do? Well, what if the thing you want to study isn't a person at all? What if it's a text or a movie or a website? For this, social scientists have a third tool: content analysis. Content analysis is this really clever method for systematically taking all of this messy, qualitative stuff, like the script of a TV show, and turning it into hard, quantitative data. You do that by categorizing and counting things. It's all about finding the hidden patterns in the media we consume. And this is what it looks like in practice. A researcher literally creates a grid,
a coding sheet, and systematically goes through the media. How many seconds is this character on screen? What's their gender? Are they shown at work or at home? By doing this across hundreds of hours of TV, you can start to see these big, large-scale patterns, like maybe uncovering how often female characters are portrayed in stereotypical roles.
The strength here is pretty obvious, right? You can spot these hidden themes and biases in our culture that we might otherwise completely miss. But of course, there are limitations. The researcher has to decide on the categories, and that can be pretty subjective. And maybe most important of all, this method tells you what is in the media, but it can't tell you a single thing about how the audience actually receives it or what they think about it.
So we've looked at questionnaires, experiments, and content analysis. We've got a few tools on our belt now, which brings us right back to that central idea of the social research toolkit.
And here it is. This is the big takeaway. There is no magic bullet. There's no single best method that works for every question. Good, solid research isn't about having a favorite tool. It's about deeply understanding the strengths and the weaknesses of each one and then choosing the right tool for the specific job you need to do.
So the next time you're scrolling and you see a headline that says, "A new study shows," you're equipped. You can pause and ask, what tool did they use? Was it a questionnaire, an experiment? And knowing what you know now about the limitations of that tool, how much weight should you really give its findings? That right there, that's the beginning of thinking like a social scientist.